Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan. Today we are doing my fifth mock draft of the Mock Draft Monday series. There have been 8 before this. I've done 4. Ryan's done 4. Ryan's is still out there, so go check out his last week and then watch this one. See which one that you like the most and leave a comment down below. Also, too, as well, we're going to be doing this every Monday leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft. So be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new videos. Also, too, just another thing, we are in the middle of our first 7-round mock draft series release. We've done 16 teams already. Go check those videos out last week, and then we're doing another 16 videos that are coming out this week as well. So we have multiple other 3-round and 7-round mock drafts lead up, especially to post-combine. I think will be a doozy. They'll be a lot of fun. So, Ryan, I think with that being said, let's pull up the draft board here. So, I will say kind of my whole philosophy in this one. I've done some vanilla ones where, honestly, there have been no trades at all. I think I've found players and picks that I've liked for each position. So I decided to change it up here a little bit. I think I will say probably at the beginning, I want to try and keep this as honest and realistic as possible. But I will say towards the end, I think I got some fun picks. Picks that I think make sense. I know I selected them, but I guess that is up to you, to the viewers, to see if it makes sense. So starting out with this right here, I will say let's just knock off the 3 quarterbacks off the board. Caleb Williams, I'm going to stick with Drake Maye in this one. I think in your rendition you went Jayden Daniels. And then I'll go Jayden Daniels then to the Patriots as well. I think, too, one of the things I remember from last season as well, and even the season before that, is people, I think, look at this and it's like, trying to get views or clicks and everything like that, and they overthink it. Like, remember when Malik Willis was going to go 2nd overall to the Lions?
Yeah,
those mock drafts did not age well. And so, especially, too, when Aiden Hutchinson's doing okay. So, if I'm being completely honest, as of right now, I don't see these 3 picks still going any other way. Maybe the Patriots go away from Jayden Daniels and maybe they'll go Marvin Harrison Jr., or maybe they'll trade back and, if they're just not a big fan of Jayden Daniels and the Falcons, for example, feel pressured, maybe they'll trade up. Maybe Washington falls in love with Jayden Daniels. Your argument and other arguments that I've seen online, they make sense. The type of quarterback that Cliff Kingsbury would want in his offensive system. I get that. I still have it going Williams, Maye, and Daniels. Those are my 1, 2, 3 in the quarterback order, also the picks as well. Same thing goes as well with the Cardinals. If this happens, there's no way that they're not taking Marvin Harrison Jr. I know some people have commented on our videos that receivers are a waste of a pick at 4. Normally, I'd agree with you if their names aren't Marvin Harrison Jr. So
go ask the Bengals if they regret taking Jamar Chase at 4.
I would say that's. Yeah, it's true. So 5's different than 4, Ryan.
Yeah.
I started mixing things up a little bit here. I've done this in the past. Where the Chargers have gone Brock Bowers. That is still extremely possible as well. But it's also, I think, equally as likely, though, they need to improve the receiver room. I will say, personally, when I saw the contract, I thought Mike Williams was overpaid. I thought he was kind of I thought he was a good receiver, but I felt like he couldn't stay healthy. And Keenan Allen's getting older. Quentin Johnson, the verdict's definitely still out there. So I'm actually going to switch it up a little bit, go Malik Neighbors. It is possible we can have to see maybe Jatavian Sanders will fall to them in the 2nd round. It's possible maybe they trade up for him, So that's something I think to be aware of. For number 6 here, it's funny. I'm just now realizing this pick, but we specifically got into a debate why Rome Odunze wouldn't fit. Not wouldn't fit, but would it be the best receiver selection going to New York? So I selected him here because I'm on the side that I think Rome Odunze would work well in nearly any offensive system. So going with Rome Odunze here. Giants need a big-time receiver. They have a bunch of little tiny speedster slot guys. I think a Rome Odunze type is going to be something totally different than what they're looking for, than what they already have. And also, he's just an amazing receiver. So I would say not vanilla, but pretty decent overall. Like maybe a little bit of variance here. Going with Joe Alt here at Tennessee. This one's very vanilla. It's like if Joe Alt falls to Tennessee, I think they're running up there. Then going to go Dallas Turner, Jared Verse over these next 2 picks. Falcons, I think, here with the edge rusher position. Raheem Morrison there. I also think, too, the way that this draft worked out, I don't know. I mean, maybe they could go Brock Bowers, but I think if they did that, they'd have to trade Kyle Pitts. Potentially, they would trade Kyle Pitts for Justin Fields, and there would be some draft compensation there. So if they would select Brock Bowers, in this scenario, they did not, obviously. So they're going to go Dallas Turner here. And then I will say for the Bears, with the way this played out, this could be a potential trade back spot. But I think, too, they're going to be completely happy with Jared Verse. I think the biggest thing on trading back is I don't know who would potentially trade up this high. Maybe a team here in a second. I'll get to that here shortly. So with the Jets, once again, Brock Bowers still sitting on the board. I thought about that a lot, but I feel like they would go Olu Fashanu here, solidify that offensive line, because they need to protect Aaron Rodgers now, but also that whoever's going to be the next quarterback in the future, whether it be Zach Wilson or – I'm just kidding. It's not going to be Zach Wilson. But in general, I think going offensive line here.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I really was like, I think you can get creative here. Up above, maybe Dallas Turner and Jared Verse fall out of the top 10. But in general, though, I think that those 10 players are going to be the top 10. Just as of right now. Maybe a corner sneaks in over Jared Verse, Dallas Turner. Maybe there's two, but I think Brock Bowers could potentially sneak in there also, and maybe he doesn't fall out. But it's also extremely realistic that he's going to fall out of the top 10. So, but he's not going to go past 11, and here's why. Minnesota is not going to draft him. This is going to be my first trade here. Minnesota needs everything defensively. And if you go look at this board right here, they can drop back a pretty decent bit. It's still going to get a really good defensive player. So a team, I think, that is looking for that next big playmaker right there. I think they're trying to get it back over the hump. They had a very disappointing season last year. I think the Bengals could trade up and go and get a guy like Brock Bowers. Imagine Brock Bowers utilize, then Jamar Chase on the other side, and then you go and get, and then they re-sign T. Higgins. Then there's a bunch of good speedster slot receivers later on in the draft. They already had a good draft last year as well with their speedsters. I think they'd trade up. I did first and a second from Cincinnati, and then a first, and then I believe it was 130. I think that's what it was. So I think the Bengals will gladly make this trade. They'll give up their second as well. This is a team, they don't really need too many needs. And I think potentially in that second round, like they can maybe even trade up now. They do have like an extra, that fourth round pick. So maybe they can move back up a little bit more from where they're at in the third round if they want to go get a defensive player as well. But they have a young secondary that's constantly improving. I will say defensive interior, I think that's something that they can improve on later on in the draft. I think you go get a guy like Brock Bowers. We saw them make moves like this with Jamar Chase when everyone's like, you need to get Penei Sewell. You need to get Penei Sewell. They got Jamar Chase, and they obviously know what they're talking about. Even though I think actually Penei Sewell would still do perfectly fine in Cincinnati if they drafted him. But Jamar Chase is also doing very well also. So that's pick number one. I think that's going to be out there. I'm very curious to see what people say. Pick number two, I think it's going to be very out there. I'm very curious to see what people say. I don't think it's going to be as out there now. I would say if I made this pick in January, it might be a little bit different. But I've been watching more film with J.J. McCarthy, and who knows what's going to happen with Russell Wilson. Even if they select J.J. McCarthy here, doesn't mean that Russell Wilson goes away. We have seen quarterbacks get taken at this range here, and they sit for a year. And they kind of get used to the system. Shoot, wasn't Patrick Mahomes the 10th pick, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And he sat for a year behind Alex Smith. J.J. McCarthy can sit for a year behind Russell Wilson, learn what not to do as a quarterback in the NFL. And I think that Sean Payton also will have that whole year, can develop him. Or they just want to rip the Band-Aid off and just go right ahead, knowing that it's going to take some time. J.J. McCarthy's honestly, it's AFC West is still one of the toughest divisions outside of just the fact that it's Patrick Mahomes. But you still have then Justin Herbert and the Chargers. The Raiders, I think, have a sneaky good team. I think they're going to be building some momentum. I think they're going to go J.J. McCarthy here. Take away also potentially the Raiders going with J.J. McCarthy on this pick. So I do think if J.J. McCarthy was available, I think it could be a sneaky kind of decision, for them. Like, hey, do we want to put some QB competition here? Do we really think Aiden O'Connell's the guy? But J.J. McCarthy is the last first-round quarterback that I think is legitimate, like has a legitimate chance to be in the first round. Bo Nix and Malcolm Penix Jr. are not going to be first-round quarterbacks. So here I'm kind of looking at it. They can go corner. They can go maybe offensive linemen if they want to. There are some free agents. I think Fuaga would be a good right tackle. But I actually decided to go a little bit different route. I ended up going with Byron Murphy. Really beef up that defensive interior here. So if you have him in the middle, Max Crosby's one of the best edge rushers. It's insane too on how good the edge rushers are in the NFL. Because Max Crosby, I think most other generations would be one of the best edge rushers in the league, and he already is one of the best edge rushers in the league. But there's so many good edge rushers, like Michael Garrett, T.J. Watt, the Bosa brothers. I mean, like he's up there with them, but it's the fact that he's not clear alone. Like that's how good he is. And on the other side, you have Malcolm Kuntz, and then still Tyree Wilson, who they drafted last year. I think now they have an amazing defensive front now to go along with their Mahomes rules and competing against just a tough AFC West division and just a tough AFC in general. Here, I kind of went back to my old kind of vanilla ways. Hard for me to see the Saints pass up on Talise Fuaga here. They need so much offensive lineman help. I think plugging him at right tackle, especially then too with Derek Carr as your QB, they're restructuring his deal, so now he actually has more cap space. They have more cap space to play with. So they're even going to have with kind of him and with Alvin Kamara still going to be very running back focus type offense. I would say run focus, Alvin Kamara focus type offense. Let's put it that way. So have them going there. Typically here for the Colts, I've gone either quarterback or receiver. I try to mix this up a little bit because I do think that a guy like Jersey Newton, I think would provide a lot of good help, I think, for Indianapolis here. And so he's now fallen, seems like, and I guess even to myself, behind Byron Murphy, as well as kind of like maybe there's number 1A, 1B defensive tackles. I think you plug him in here. It helps out with the run defense, helps out getting good pass pressure as well. If you go look at that division, very similar, I would say, to the Las Vegas Raiders. Going to be going up against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. CJ Stroud and that offense. You're going to want to have to slow those guys down. Honestly, I think Will Levis can provide some serious pop, I think, to the Tennessee Titans team. So I think you go and get a guy, something similar, I say, to the Raiders strategy, beef up that defensive line, beef up that interior, so they can provide good pass pressure with 3 or 4 down linemen. They can drop back 7 or 8. So last pick here before I get a sip of water, I want to hear your thoughts. Ended up sticking with Laiatu Latu here. I think this fit just kind of makes sense. Keep him on the West Coast. But I also think, too, he's the kind of edge rusher that they would be looking for, in my opinion. I think he just fit their defensive scheme. I also think, too, now with their new head coach, Mike McDonald. He wants to say Tom McDonald, but he's the rapper. And I don't think they're related. But I'm going to go with Laiatu Latu here. If I go look at guys that were successful last year on the Ravens defense, I think he kind of fits that mold. I think him and Jared Verse kind of fit that mold. So if Verse falls here, maybe they go with Verse in this situation. But let me take a quick pause here. I've been going through pretty quick, but I want to hear your overall thoughts so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the top here and start at pick 1. I mean, the 3 quarterbacks going off the board, that to me, it just makes the most sense. PFF has Jayden Daniels all the way down at like 22. That doesn't make any sense to me. He's a top 10 talent at worst. And just the fact that he's a quarterback, I think, elevates his draft stock a little bit more. And I will say, I think it'll be really interesting to see what New England does. I don't think they're guaranteed to take a quarterback here. I do think if they don't, they'll trade back. But Jayden Daniels is a really enticing prospect. Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Remo Dunze, all those picks make sense. Joe Alt, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Oluf Shanu, that makes sense. I love this Brock Bowers trade because I think you look back to when Joe Burrow was being very, very successful in Cincinnati. And I know like this year kind of got off to a rocky start and then he ended up getting injured. But last year, he was on another level. And that was when Hayden Hurst was there and he was playing really, really well. And so I really like getting them a nice presence over the middle, really unlocking, I think, the full potential of this offense. And also, I think if you're going to have Joe Mixon come back, which I know he's a potential cut candidate, if you're going to have him come back, Brock Bowers helps you out in the run game as well. They have invested in tackles last year in free agency, and I believe the year before. Hasn't quite worked out the way that they wanted, but this is a fairly deep tackle class, especially at that right tackle spot. They don't have the second rounder anymore, but they could definitely get guys later on. And then J.J. McCarthy, definitely been a guy rising up draft boards. There's been a lot of reports Sean Payton really, really likes him, and I don't really think he'll be around for their next pick. So,
Yeah.
and trying to move up and down for quarterbacks gets a little frustrating, and because people will trade up and do whatever they can to get those quarterbacks. Taking them there at 12. And then honestly, the rest of the picks in the top 16, I really like as well. So far, I mean, this is kind of how I think a lot of these drafts have gone, but like all of these picks make sense. All of these picks are good fits. And I just think that this is because this draft class specifically, there's just a lot of really solid players. Like there's still well over a handful of true first round talent players.
Well, and that's why, to your point earlier about Jayden Daniels, I get why PFF has Jayden Daniels ranked like 20 or 22, whatever it was. I completely agree with you that he's going to be drafted in the top 10. Like he's not getting past Atlanta unless if Atlanta trades for Justin Fields or something like that. He's not getting past.
Yeah,
them.
but then there's New York and other teams also.
Yeah. So it's like he's going to get drafted in the top 10. But I can see why they could like that because it's like I think there's maybe a higher probability that Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Quinton Mitchell, and even if we scroll down a little bit more, JPJ, JC Latham, like those guys that are ranked higher than him have a more successful career in the NFL than Jayden Daniels does. So I can see that. So it's going to be crazy, and we're only halfway through. So let's continue. Let's get back to this here. Kind of got a run of corners going on here, the way that this has been set up now. So Jacksonville, I think I can absolutely see them going Jackson Powers Johnson here. I think I could see them going a lot of different ways. Ended up in this one, though, convincing myself to get the best cornerback off the board for them. That could be whoever you want it to be. And so here, I still have Nate Wiggins as my number one corner as well. And so dude's freakishly athletic. He's going to be that base outside corner for you as well. Also, I'm a Falcons fan. AJ Terrell from Clemson. So you're welcome, Jaguars. So obviously it correlates. Minnesota here. Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, I think it has I guess Reed Blankenship's white. So for the longest of time, Minnesota had the only other white corner secondary in the league. I think they're going to add another one here and going to go Cooper DeJean here. I say that jokingly. That's just been the joke. Cooper DeJean is freakishly athletic. He could be the number one cornerback off the board.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to be. I just think he also fits well into what they're doing. I think I'd make the same thing for the Rams. Is they need so much help on the defense side of the ball, so much help in the secondary that a guy like Cooper DeJean, they can put him anywhere. I feel like he could do outside, he could do nickel, he could be strong safety. He's just freakishly athletic. So I think if he falls to the Rams, I think that's who I would be selecting there for him. Here, I actually ended up going, I think, when I'm going a little bit of a different route, went Terrion Arnold here instead of Quinton Mitchell. I think Terrion Arnold's got a lot of upside. I think he's got had great film out there at Alabama. And so this could easily also be Kool-Aid or Quinton Mitchell as well. Here at 20, I was trying not to overthink it. If Jackson Powers Johnson's there, Steelers are going to take him. I was thinking maybe they would trade back or maybe to do that, but I'm thinking, why would they risk it? You can make a serious argument that Miami would take a center, that Philadelphia would take a center. I think potentially even also then to Dallas, as well. It depending on who they would take it. So I think that they would take Jackson Powers Johnson here. Then with that being said, too, Miami is a little frustrated that JPJ didn't fall to them. And there's a team that picked earlier as well, the Arizona Cardinals. There's a guy that they like. I think that they've already addressed the receiver position. I think they're going to trade up with Miami, give them the let's do the 27, the 105, and the 222. Scroll down just a little bit more there. This forced the trade. That, according to the draft charts, that's how the numbers were pretty close there. I think it makes sense for Miami to trade back here. They have a lot of different needs the way that this board worked out. They could still go get any other offensive lineman that they'd want. They're going to be other secondaries technically, and then if they want to go receiver or other defensive positions, I think that they can go get those guys. It's also going to be other edge rushers that are going to be available there, and they get more draft capital as well to keep building this team. The Cardinals, they use all their draft capital to go get the offensive lineman that they want. Really like JC Latham here. I think of the offensive linemen that are left, he's the most polished and NFL ready. I think if you go look at what Paris Johnson Jr. was the best offensive linemen in last year's class. I think, but you saw his overall development. I think a guy like J.C. Latham, who seems to be closer there, I think he can come in and get some good reps. Even if he doesn't want to start, or not doesn't, I'm sure he wants to start. If they don't want him to start, and allow for Kelvin Beachum and DJ Humphreys to kind of take over that position while he kind of just gets his sea legs, maybe his rookie year. I think that also is going to work out perfectly. Here at Philadelphia, their Eagles, I'm going to assume, are not going to be super high on the remaining cornerbacks. They could go there, I think, with the two offensive linemen taken off the board as well. I also think, too, they're probably just going to want a little bit more draft capital because I think there might be some veteran turnover here that they're going to need to address. So I actually have them trading here with a team that is also struggling to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Actually, I take that back. The Eagles beat the Chiefs. But I actually have the Bills trading up here, and I have them getting Brian Thomas Jr. Trade-wise, 28 and 99 was about the what the numbers worked out to. So I have them moving up here. Again, Brian Thomas Jr. Bills need receiving help. They also need defensive line help as well on the defensive interior. I think the top two defensive linemen are off the board, the first round worthy ones. I think that they can address the defensive interior later on. Also, they can get linebacker later on or even secondary as well. So have them going there. Here, Houston Texans, a lot of different routes they could go. I think that they could go corner here, but I actually kind of in the realm of mixing things up, though. They do also have a lot of linebacker free agencies that are going on. I think they can improve in that area. I think if you go get a guy like Edgerrin Cooper come in, I don't think that this is going to be too much of a stretch. A guy like this is probably not going to be there for their second overall pick. My mentality on this is something very similar to the Lions' mentality last year when they got Jack Campbell. So I think going Edgerrin Cooper here. This could easily be Peyton Willis. This could easily be Jeremiah Trotter or anybody else. I guess that they would like. So here with Dallas, I have the next two corners coming off the board here. Got Quinion Mitchell going to Dallas. The way that the board's falling out, and also then too, not Stephon Diggs. Stephon Gilmore is getting a little bit older, and then also Trayvon Diggs. That's it. Coming off the ACL tear. I think they're going to want to maintain that strong cornerback presence. They could go a lot of different directions, though. They could go Zach Frazier, I think, as a center. They could potentially they could take the first linebacker off the board. I think if Edgerrin Cooper wasn't taken at 23, I think maybe they could go there. They could also still go linebacker. So a lot of different ways they can go. Packers here, I think they're going to wrap up. I think this is going to work out perfectly. Get Kool-Aid McKinstry to go there. He can't play corner, but also, too, I think something that I've been hearing as well is that he could play safety. And also, Packers have a lot of guys hitting free agency on the safety side. Also, they just need help there in general. So, versatile cornerback there. With Tampa Bay, I have them going Troy Franklin here. I think we all know Mike Evans getting old. Chris Godwin is still kind of recovering, but still, I think, doing okay. But he is also still getting up there in age. So I think you go get a guy like Troy Franklin, kind of hopefully maybe help smooth that bridge on from Mike Evans then to Troy Franklin as that kind of do-it-all kind of receiver. So Miami here now, they kind of get their wish. They're able to trade back. There still would have been a lot of good guys that were available here. I have them addressing the interior offensive lineman, the second center, or / guard. I can say coming off the board, have them going with Zach Frazier here. They have a lot of guys that are hitting the free agency. I think last I checked on our lads, all three of the interior starting offensive linemen were hitting free agency, and then even the backups were like they could improve on. Just to say that. So here at 28 now with the Eagles, I think they're going to try and go with best player available overall. And to me, on my board, really like Ladd McConkey. Both Quez Watkins and Olamide Zaccheaus are both in the free agency overall. I think now with the extra picks that they got, that they can address those areas elsewhere on the team. I'm kind of curious to hear. We have one commenter who's always watching saying that we have horrible picks for the Eagles. Very curious to see what you think of this pick. I'm going to guess that you probably think it's horrible. So let us know that, please. And leave a like while you're at it. Detroit now picking at 29. I have them going with Chris Braswell. I love the idea of getting Aiden Hutchinson, another running mate. And I think the way that this board worked out is they'll probably end up going edge rusher in this instance as well. So here at Baltimore, this is probably my last of the picks that I think are going to be kind of out there. But typically, what happens in Baltimore is there's very run focused team, and they've gotten really good young new shiny toys, but unfortunately they break. So why not draft somebody that is already maybe kind of broken a little bit, maybe coming off an ACL injury? Have to go with Jonathan Brooks here. I think imagine him in this backfield with Lamar Jackson. Really like that fit. I don't think he's going to make it there by their second pick because I think as we kind of go on through the combine, through free agency, I think guys are going to like what they see with his knee and his overall development. He will be ready by the start of next season, especially by training camp. I think you go put him in the backfield with Lamar Jackson. He's also he's the running back number 1 in this class as well. So maybe it's a little high for him. I don't care. Let me know in the comments. Last 2 picks, offensive linemen. These are probably a little bit more vanilla. I'd say actually for the Chiefs, I went different around here. So, but the Niners, I'm going to go with Graham Barton here. They need to improve on that interior offensive line. So I'm going to go with Graham Barton here. And then lastly, Kansas City Chiefs, Amarius Mims. I typically have gone receiver for them, so I wanted to try and mix this up. Going to go with a guy like Amarius Mims, who we've talked about how you've seen live, and the dude's just a freak. Dude's just an absolute freak. So that's mock draft 5.0, probably a little bit out there. I kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit. I tried to keep it as realistic as I felt like I probably could. I didn't want JJ McCarthy to be going like second overall or something like that. But I do think it's realistic that if the Broncos like him, I mean, he's not going to make it to their second round pick. I would say that it's going to be like if JJ McCarthy's there for New England in the second round and they don't go quarterback, like I think that they're most definitely going to
I think if JJ McCarthy reaches the low 20s, New England's probably making phone calls to go up and get him at that point, along with other teams. I mean, I go back and forth on him and Bo Nix because I think they're very different. Bo Nix has so much tape that you kind of already know what you're going to get. And JJ McCarthy to me is the exact opposite, where it's like you have so little tape that, like, to put in perspective, Michael Penix and Bo Nix each threw like 150 more passes this year than JJ McCarthy did. And it's simply just because of the offenses that they were in. But like, you just don't know how JJ McCarthy will handle that like surplus and workload because the sample size you do have is good. It's just the uptick. So,
I will say that to that point. I mean, he did lead that fourth quarter comeback and then the overtime comeback against Alabama. One of the best defenses that he's probably faced all year. And so going up against 2 or 3 first round picks, maybe even more if I'm misremembering on the screen here. So I think he showed that poise. Yeah. I think he showed that he did rely heavily on Roman Wilson, which I think could actually be a second round target. I think for the Denver Broncos there, keep them together. But yeah, I think from what I've seen though, and it's just on those individual plays, that you just can kind of piece together. He's got the throws. Looks like he's got the vision. He's got the speed and the size also too. I mean, we're talking about Jayden Daniels with his speed and size. I think Jayden McCarthy, I mean, he's fast, and so
yeah, he's not as fast as Jayden Daniels. He's also smaller. Jayden Daniels 6'4", 210. McCarthy's 6'3", 200. So he's not like that much smaller, but he is smaller.
Yeah.
He's also 3 years younger. So like there's give and take like with each prospect. All in all, this is a really intriguing quarterback class because depending on how Michael Penix does next week, he's either a top 20 pick or a late day 2, early day 3 selection.
I still think no matter what, I think he's going to be a day 2 pick.
Yeah. I mean, if he gets glowing reports from all the doctors at the combine, I mean, then I think you have some serious consideration as to just how high can he go.
Yeah.
But again, he has all those injuries. The NFL has shown in the past that they will avoid players like that, like the plague. So
yeah,
I'm really intrigued by this quarterback class. I also go back and forth on Bo Nix because Oregon runs a spread offense that's really simple to read, but Bo Nix executed it to near perfection last year. And I know he's 24. It took him five seasons to get to this point. But where he is right now, I mean, he's a really talented prospect as well, especially for teams that might be looking for a guy to come in and step in right away, similar to kind of what the Raiders or the Broncos would be doing that are already a little bit more established than the teams in the top three.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, it. Anything can happen. Next week's going to be telling a lot. I
yeah.
will say just on what everybody thinks of these players. And so let's. What are your thoughts on the second half of these picks here?
Yeah, I mean, I really like him. I really like Cooper DeJean. He's probably my top corner for teams that need more than just an outside corner. Simply because he's just so athletic. He's played so many different positions. He can come in, and I think he's a great fit there in Minnesota. Jackson Powers Johnson makes a ton of sense there. Terrion Arnold. I like the J.C. Latham pick as well. It sounds like DJ Humphries is a cut candidate as well. So Paris Johnson Jr. could kick over to left tackle, and then J.C. Latham could slot right in there back at right tackle at his natural position. Brian Thomas Jr., I like that pick. Edrin Cooper, I like that pick. He is a guy that I think is going to gain a lot of steam after the combine because he's going to be 6'4", 235, probably running the 4.4s, low 4.5s at that size at the linebacker position, which is fantastic. So I really like a lot of these. The only one that I have a problem with, I think, is the Jonathan Brooks one. I don't think that there's any running backs in this class that should be taken in the top 50. So, but again, at the same time, like if you really like a guy, like Rashad Penny was a first round pick, Sony Michel was a first round pick. So, you could definitely make a case for a guy like Jonathan Brooks because he is so talented and explosive. He's coming off the ACL. He's going to have some health concerns at the beginning of his career, and so I just don't think any of these running backs will be taken inside the top 50.
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit on that. I mean, I'm looking at it now. I mean, if there's guys that they like, I mean, if I'm looking at this early second round, I mean, shoot, I will just say that. I mean, Arizona Chargers, Tennessee, Green Bay, Minnesota are all teams initially just looking at it right now off the top of my head. And you can make an argument for Las Vegas also. There are teams that would be needing a running back. Their guys are aging out, and they want to go and get the top guy at that spot. Is it a little early? Totally get that argument. Totally get that argument. I think a guy like Jonathan Brooks, though, he is coming off the ACL injury. This was 15 years ago. I would say that guy ACL, like, let's see how this guy goes. We've seen plenty of guys tear their ACL and then come back and are 100% absolutely okay. And it's like they didn't even miss a beat. So I think with modern medicine now, I think it was early enough too. It was late October, early November, if I'm not mistaken. So that's from what I've heard and from what we've seen is 6 months for ACLs. Until you're kind of like good full go, maybe a couple extra months to get the confidence back. That right there is honestly putting them close to draft time if I'm doing my math correctly. So a lot of that stuff's up in the air. But I think it's an absolute possibility. They need running back help, and Baltimore for whatever reason goes through running backs like hotcakes. So I think why not get a guy that's already hurt? Maybe that'll help them out.
Yeah. For the team that has the problems with injuries, let's get him an injured guy. Yeah, I don't know, but again, that's to me that's just the only one that, like, I understand your argument. I just don't. I also think that you really shouldn't be looking at running backs till day 3. Like you draft 2 or 3 day 3 running backs, and you keep those guys on a heavy rotation. You're never really bringing guys in for a second contract, just because like those miles add up so quickly in today's NFL. And so to me, I would rather spend like premium assets like this on something else. But again, I think it's all about how you view it, and I think you can make an argument both ways. So,
as a Falcons fan, I have to disagree with you.
Yeah, well, so, but all in all, I mean, I really like the way this turned out. I think Amarius Mims at 32, I think is really good value there. I do think of the top tier tackles, he is probably the one to slide, just because he's only started 8 games in his collegiate career. He has had a couple injuries like in between those games. And he's probably the most raw of all the top tier offensive linemen. Like him and Tyler Guyton I think are the two freakiest guys, but they're also probably the most raw in terms of actual like blocking prowess. So I think that's going to be a really interesting situation to kind of monitor. But I don't. Do you have anything else to add on this?
No, leave a comment. Very curious to see
Yeah.
what you think of your team selection. Yeah, like, subscribe.
Yeah. So go ahead, leave a comment on what you think of Tyler's mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? Other than that, we will see you guys next time.